Hello my friends, this is Mark Graham with the Source of Story YouTube channel and Runes for Writers. And in this video we're going to look at another rune casting, this time using our cards deck. And this is the Web of Wyrd rune casting. Now the Wyrds are three giantesses. They are forces of nature. The first is named Wyrd, whose name is associated with origins or beginnings, the past. The second is named Verdandi, and she is associated with becoming, or the ever-evolving now, the present. And finally, the third is named Skuld, or Skuld, depending on different various pronunciations. And her name is associated with debt. Now you'll notice I pronounced that two ways. And Skuld, which is one pronunciation, is very closely related in modern English to should. So this is a sense of, based on what has gone before, what is becoming now, this should happen. It's not a hard and fixed destiny. It's a likely outcome. And we'll talk about some options with that as we move further. Now, if you're using tiles, just give them a good shake in your pouch or the box or however you store them. If you're using the cards, if for some reason your cards are in order, you've been studying them, you've just been demonstrating them to a friend, you have them in order, I want you to give 5 shuffles. This will ensure a complete randomization of the cards to give you a solid reading. In my case, my cards are already fairly randomized, so just to make sure that they're ready to go, I will give them 3 shuffles, 1 for each of the aspects of Odin, Vili, and Ve. So as you go through this, I want you to take the cards and also, as you separate them into 2 halves, turn them end to end to each other, and this will ensure that we randomize their being upright or reversed as well. There's 2 and 3 shuffles. As I said, this rune casting is particularly useful for a scene, a brief scene in your book. It can be used on a broader scale for a sequence, or perhaps even a full act. But it's really intended for a micro view of what's happening in your story with your character. And we'll go through this as we do the layout. So, beginning at the top, this first card represents Odin, and this represents the character or the situation being addressed. Our second card is for Wyrd, which represents the past. Verdandi, which is the becoming or the present moment, and Skuld, which represents what should happen, the likely outcome of this present string of situations. So before we get started, we have our notation sheet. So we will go ahead and mark those down just so we don't forget. You can also take a photo of this, but you want to keep a record and your notes and first impressions so that you can always come back to where you were. So in the Odin position, we have Fehu upright. In Wyrd, we have Ehwaz reversed. In Verdandi, we have Berkenaz reversed. And in Skuld, we have Sowilo, and Sowilo cannot be reversed. So let's look at what this means. So the Odin card, we have Fehu. Fehu is typically associated with wealth. It literally means cattle, and so for the ancient Norse, as a somewhat nomadic people, one's wealth was measured literally in cattle. We make jokes of it today, but back then it was a very real thing. This rune also means unrealized potential. Now, dairy products were not huge at the time. Even today, after thousands of years of evolution, of trying to consume dairy products, some of you know this better than others, dairy is not particularly easy for the human system to digest. So cattle on the hoof had limited true usefulness. They represented wealth, but they only became useful when they were slaughtered. Once you slaughtered your cattle, you had leather for tents for shelter, for clothing. You had bones for weapons or musical instruments. You had meat, of course, for food. And there were a number of many different resources that could be made once the cattle was slaughtered. On the hoof, again, large potential, but not much that you can physically do with it at that time. So that unrealized potential or unmanifest potential is an alternate meaning of this. So in this situation, this is our Odin. This is the character in the situation. So this suggests a character who is well off, who's doing well, who has a lot of potential and may or may not be realizing that potential yet, but it is there. And applying this now, the wheels are turning as I apply this to my particular scene in the story, and that is very apropos. We go to the Wyrd position, and this is Ehwaz reversed. Now, Ehwaz represents, it means horse. It's related etymologically to the Latin equus, Ehwaz. So it is, the literal meaning is horse. In its interpretation, we take this as generally intuition. A well-trained horse and an experienced rider, they become almost as one. And as, even without the use of the reins, a rider who is attuned with his horse can direct that horse willingly through his knees, or even just subconsciously, I want to go over there, and the horse will go. This may be through subtle body cues, but whatever it is, there is an intuitive connection between horse and rider, and that's where this comes from. So reversed, this suggests that the character has been acting contrary to intuition, contrary to gut feelings. He's been doing things that maybe are expedient, maybe useful, maybe that are approved by those around him, but don't necessarily agree with his inner voice, with his gut feelings, with his intuition. That's the past. That is how we got to this moment. We go to the Verdandi, the central position, and this is becoming. This is what's happening now, coming into being. And we have Berkano reversed. Berkano stands for life energy. It stands for birth, for nourishment. It literally means the birch tree. The birch tree in an area where, for the ancient Norse, where a glacier has just retreated, in certain areas, mountainous areas where perhaps there's been a forest fire. Birch trees and aspens and their relatives are among the first pioneer plants. They are called a pioneer species because they are among the first plants to go into a place that has been denuded and to begin refertilizing, to bring plant life back into the area. They break up the ground. They use the ash that has been deposited, or it may just be hard scrabble that's been left over in the wake of retreating glaciers. So this is birch. This is Berkano. It is life nourishment. Some people see in this a mother's breast. So you have that idea of caretaking, of nourishment, of life-giving energy. Reversed is the opposite of that. This can be illness. This can be sickness, which works well for my character. I would say in this situation, he has become ill. He is not doing well. And this is an outgrowth of his past denying of his intuition, of his intuitive knowledge, his gut feeling. So he has acted contrary to what he knew on an internal level, on an intuitive level, and is now sick, possibly dying because of that. Wow. This works perfectly for my particular scene. I'm going to jot this down real quick so I don't forget. Okay, I'm back. So we have Fehu in the Odin position, representing the character in the particular circumstances. We have Ehwaz reversed in the Urd position, in the past, what has gone before. And we have Berkeno reversed in the Verdandi position, which is the now, the becoming, the present. And finally, we have Sowilo in the Schuld position. This is interesting because we have a fairly negative string of circumstances leading into this, but in this position, Sowilo is success. It is power. It is alignment. Sowilo means sun. It also means soul. The two are very connected. The sun was seen as the soul of the universe, at least of our solar system, such as it is. But it was the universe for the ancient Norse. And the sun was the center of that, was the soul of that. So we have this notion that through this string of experiences, somehow the soul is awakened and success is going to come. Okay, so this layout, even though it seems contradictory, is perfect for my particular scene. It works beautifully. I love it. If you get a layout for your scene that doesn't seem to make sense, or that feels contradictory, or is too far, you don't want to do that to your character. You don't want to put that in that situation. Here's an option for you. This represents the current string of events, what has gone before, what is happening now, and the likely outcome, what should happen. If you're not satisfied with this, take your deck back up and flip a new card. And this is a new Verdandi. So for me, this represents a new potential choice or action and the likely result of that new outcome. Now, in this new layout, we have Ehwaz, which cannot be reversed, and Ehwaz means the yew tree. It stands for transformation, perhaps radical transformation, even to death and rebirth, resurrection possibly. And in the new Schuld position, we have Kenaj, which means torch and stands for knowledge, ability, skill, craft, authority. So in this position, we have an abnegation of one's intuition. We have a radical transformation that can happen. This could be the person recognizing that they need to stand up for themselves, that they need to listen to their inner voice. And the result of that, this actually works pretty well for me as well in this scene. I was happy with where it was, and this gives me a a very good outcome as well. So you notice we had Berkeno reversed before, and that indicates, as I said, sickness. Ehwaz can be even a deeper, more radical transformation unto death. And I believe that's where this one is going for me. And out of that death and rebirth, remember we have the branches of the yew tree going underground into the underworld, seeming to die, and then they come up elsewhere as a new tree. And that is that death and rebirth, that death and resurrection kind of cycle that we have there with Ehwaz. And out of that radical transformation comes a new authority, a new knowledge and ability and skill that this character can take forward with him into the new story. So that is the Web of Wyrd rune casting with an alternate ending for you. And you can take those last two cards, you can continue that just to brainstorm and to look at new courses of action, new present moments or immediate future moments to see what an alternate should happen, an alternate outcome for each of those different possibilities. We have 24 cards total, 4 go in the initial layout, so you can do 10 more options on top of that if you want to just keep going deeper and deeper and deeper with different options of where this story, this particular scene can go for you. So it's a pretty powerful rune. It's very simple at its basis, but you can go deeper and deeper if you want to. There we have it. That, my friends, is the Web of Wyrd. I am Mark Graham with the Source of Story YouTube channel and Runes for Writers. Thanks for watching.